few weeks ago, we received some new leaks regarding the RE4 Remake. Some of these leaks, if true, would quite honestly ruin the game and lead to so much fan backlash. I wasn't planning on making a video of these leaks, but due to so many people having questions regarding them, I thought I'd come on here and give my personal thoughts about these said leaks. Before we jump into it, make sure to subscribe for more Resident Evil news and content, and with that being said, let's get right into the video.
Resident Evil 4.
The first leak states that the basic gameplay is extremely similar to the Resident Evil 3 remake. However, the dodge mechanic has been replaced with a party mechanic. This only works against regular Ganados with rare exceptions. So as we know, this leak has somewhat already been confirmed with the RE4 Remake gameplay trailer. The trailer, as we know, showed Leon controlled in a third-person perspective, just like the RE3 remake. But what's interesting about this is the new party mechanic. I would assume that this mechanic has something to do with Leon and Ashley, and if that is the case, then this could mean that they are going to try and make Ashley somewhat more useful in the remake, which is exactly what we need to see. The next leak states that Ashley no longer follows Leon throughout levels. Instead, she hides inside special safe rooms. This is because the devs wanted to avoid player frustrations with the AI. When a new special save room is reached, a chase sequence begins. Leon must return to Ashley's location and escort her to the next. Chases are unique and depend on the area. For example, Salazar's right hand appears during one of these sequences in the castle, tailing you throughout, only giving up once the new save room is reached. So in my personal opinion, this is great for a couple reasons. Not only are they removing any player frustrations with escorting Ashley, but they're taking this frustrating aspect and turning it into a thrilling and scary experience. As we know, the original wasn't really that scary at all, so adding in new details like this to make the remake a little more thrilling will go a long way. Moving on, it states that the merchant returns untouched. Lore was planned to be established but was cut, as to keep him mysterious. However, he now has a Spanish accent. Okay, is it just me, or does this sound completely dumb? Why would they take out the iconic Australian accent we all know and love from the merchant? I mean, sure, you're probably not going to be able to find the same voice actor from the original, but I feel like they could easily find someone that sounds pretty similar. Next up, it states that Krauser has been entirely cut from the game for being overly confusing. The developers felt that the lack of establishing lore for him and Leon's comrade dynamic makes him out of place. Okay, this sounds absolutely terrible. If this is true, then I will tell you right now that Capcom is going to bomb this remake. If they plan on cutting Krauser, a character who had such a prominent role in the original, then that means they will be okay with cutting even more content. A lot of people have been bringing up this leak in specific to me, and all I gotta say is let's hope it's rather wrong, or let's hope that it was an early idea that was scrapped later on into development. The next leak states that Luis has his character vastly expanded, replacing Krauser. He helps Leon and Ashley treat their Plagas infections with medication out of guilt for orchestrating her capture. Leon finds out Luis is responsible via a computer terminal in the castle. Afterwards, at the point of the game where Luis was originally killed, instead he's implanted with a much more powerful Plaga that controls the nervous system entirely. Luis mutates into a Birkin-type creature and begins pursuing Leon throughout the remainder of the castle. He is fully lucid, begging Leon to stop him. He mutates continuously and is eventually killed on the island. This more powerful Plagas is responsible for a new type of enemy in the castle. Rather than sprouting a Plagas head, some enemies will have their upper half fall apart, mutating similar to Luis. Garradors are one such enemy that will use this new type of Plaga, as they no longer have a functional face or head. Now guys, most people could agree that Luis needs a more prominent role in this remake, but you really gotta ask yourself, is this really the right way to go about it? This leak makes Luis to be a bad guy, which is the exact opposite from the original. And also in the process of Luis's new role, they have to cut Krauser. I don't know, me personally, I feel like this is definitely a bad move. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Moving on, it states that the castle has been expanded. Salazar is no longer a dwarf. Instead, he is sickly, frail, and walks with a cane. His personality though is the exact same. Ashley's segment has been entirely reworked. Leon collapses due to the infection while midway through the castle, forcing Ashley to take his pistol from his holster and retrieve medication they dropped while running from Salazar's right hand. During this segment, Ashley becomes more sure of herself, gets familiar with parrying, and recovers medication, reviving Leon. So this all sounds pretty good. I mean, I'm not so sure about the different perspective on Salazar. It looks like we're just gonna have to wait and see how that goes. Next, it states that the Novistador segment has been removed. Instead, Leon must fight a pursuer enemy called the Jester, a prisoner who has been locked below the castle infected with an original Plaga. She has been alive for centuries, meaning she is sickly and mutated, and uses a spear to hunt you. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this actually does sound pretty cool, and it also makes a lot of sense. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that the Novistadors were so annoying to deal with in the original, so honestly, I'm totally okay with them removing this segment. From there, it goes on to say that the Ada encounter is roughly the same, but she is less standoffish. She assists you by pointing her laser ahead of you while you navigate through the maze, to point out upcoming enemies hiding in the bushes. The island has been almost entirely converted into being a lab segment. It is roughly untouched compared to the original game's regenerator segment, but is majorly extended. The last 30 minutes are a long chase sequence. The first part is a roughly translated truck sequence from the original game's island, ending with the encounter against Sadler. The ending of the game is roughly the same, but Wesker is more prominent. Okay, so if you haven't seen my last video, I actually talked about this. I feel like Wesker would be a great boss fight in the remake. Not only does everyone love Wesker, but he also appeared during Ada's story a lot, so I feel like adding him in the actual game would kind of make a lot of sense. Moving on, it states that Ada boards an Apache now, with Wesker on board. Leon still escapes via jet ski. Mercenaries makes a return, with Luis replacing Krauser as a playable character. Once again, I hope that Krauser being cut is not the case, but we'll just have to wait and see. Moving on, it states that the night portion of the village is longer, which as we know has already been confirmed in the trailer. Mendez has been renamed to Mr. Mendez. His fight remains roughly the same, and the village map is roughly the same as well. Every unlock from the original game is included. There are no OG outfits because Leon's design is essentially the same. So as we know, Leon's appearance is actually slightly different from the original. He kinda has his beta look from Resident Evil 3.5. With that said, rather this leak is fake, or the leaker is bringing up an early version of Leon in the beginning stages of development. Moving on, it states one of the most important and time-consuming aspects of development has been the game's overall tone, and replicating RE4's B-movie atmosphere. Leon's personality was initially a continuation of Leon in the RE2 Remake, where he would be noble, dedicated, and brave, but much less naive and hardened by combat. The rest of the game's general campiness made this portrayal stick out like a sore thumb. I know of a few times where narrative directors have been replaced in an effort to hone Leon's character into being as iconic as he was in the original Resident Evil 4. I would say that the team has done a great job. Leon is just like he was in the original, but a little more heroic. From there, it goes on to say that Ashley's personality is similar to her personality in the original Resident Evil 4. However, she does learn to be more confident under the watch of Leon. There is a new voice actor who sounds a little bit like the original voice actor, but younger and less gruff. This is another leak, as we know, that has already been confirmed from the trailer. Next, the leaker states that they saw the game being tested on a PS4 and PS5. The game does have some performance issues on previous gen consoles, which is partially why the Novistadors were cut. Large quantities would tank FPS on the PS4. As far as this leaker knows, the game will be released on all current and previous gen consoles, barring the Switch. So this is actually another leak that is incorrect. For those of you who don't know, as of now, the remake is actually only being ported to next gen consoles, and Capcom hasn't said anything yet about porting it to older consoles after the release. Moving on, it states that Mike is still in the game. Salazar's fight is only different because his left hand is killed before fighting Salazar. He still mutates into a creature that hides within a pod, requiring a much larger and similar monster to be stunned before he becomes vulnerable. The battle does still occur at the top of the tower. Leon typically uses his forearm to deflect an oncoming melee attack, leaving the enemy open for an additional melee attack. Melee attacks can be performed against enemies who have been successfully parried, or if an enemy has been stunned via headshot or leg shot. It's the same amount of action, but a little bit scarier. The upgrade system is essentially the same, and most guns are the same as well. The semi-auto rifle is now a more grounded G3 rifle, and the Silver Ghost returns as the handgun. The Salazar statue remains. This time it's controlled via a gigantic plaga. This chase can be prevented by using a difficult to find switch on the back of its neck. Moving on, it goes on to say that Leon's relationship with Ashley is essentially the same as the original Resident Evil 4, but he is more caring and tender towards Ashley. So guys, that was all the leaks on the page. You can take what you want out of it, but at the end of the day, nothing is set in stone until it gets confirmed, which most of these leaks have yet to do. Make sure to let me know your own personal thoughts on these leaks down in the comments below, and with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.